Ben Tennyson?
Here to foil my brilliant plan.
I shall be unstoppable!
When you're reviewing Nintendo Switch games, some days you've got Hades and others Troll and I, but this morning Ben 10 Power Trip has washed up on Switch Up's fine shores, and I've spent the last few days playing through with my daughter, and I'm acutely aware that on the way to Christmas parents are looking for potential purchases. But is Ben 10's latest Omnitrix Donning adventure worth your time, or is this one stuck in the past? Let's find out.
Take that!
Gotcha!
Ben Tennyson and his family are off on a relaxing holiday in Europe, but shock horror, Hex has other ideas as he awakes 4 mysterious crystals which scatter throughout the world you're inhabiting and take on a variety of forms. The story goes that you, Ben 10, saviour of the universe, take it upon yourself to retrieve the 4 missing crystals.
Good plan.
It's ultra cliche and classic Saturday morning cartoon affair that had my 2 children absolutely captivated. Just don't expect to be overly stimulated as an adult. Credit where it's due, the cast are entirely voice acted. There are a number of strange and quirky characters, as well as a couple of surprising story moments that go a little bit above and beyond what I was expecting. In terms of the gameplay, this is Grand Theft Auto Ben 10, minus all the killing and guns and cars and yeah, alright, that was a terrible analogy. You have a completely open world map, which can be viewed with the press of a button, and it will also show you any main and side activities that you're currently undertaking. You can track these easily, but the vast majority of them are fetch quests. Oh, I've lost my sticks, please go and collect them for me. I need some acorns. Wait, where are the mushrooms? Go and get the mushrooms. You'll then usually be set upon by a group of enemies, and controlling your character in combat is quite straightforward. There's no lock-on mechanic, which is a bit of a shame, but you didn't really need it. You've got a dodge roll, a light and heavy attack, and you'll be stringing together these to create different special combos. As you'd expect, if you're familiar with the Ben 10 series, then one of the first things that happens is your Omnitrix is totally emptied, and through completing the main and side missions, you'll unlock up to 10 different alien forms, which can be quick switched on the fly. Small details which made me realise that this isn't just a complete cash-in were things like the ability to assign these to your D-pad so that you can quickly change. There's no point in an open world if it's no fun to explore. One element that I really enjoy was the fact they added a quick travel system to the game nice and early on, but also that you can move very swiftly around it. By pressing a trigger, Ben will whip out his little scooter, and this makes him one of the fastest characters for navigating the world. There are a number of puzzle platforming elements that require specific skills from certain aliens, and there are times when you'll be shifting between all of your characters to reach certain areas. Later in the game you'll unlock the climbing ability, and the world in general is quite a fun little playground. As we'll go into in the performance section coming up, unfortunately the Switch version has quite a few issues, but do you know what? When I split the screen, as you can do local co-op, my 2 kids didn't seem to see any issues with the game at all. Both characters have all of the skills and abilities, and despite its simplicity, it is a game where you can work cooperatively, one of you pulling the heavy blocks, the other one smashing down walls, and then double jumping your way up the sides of the mountains or into the town. It's very forgiving indeed. If you die, you simply pop up at where you dropped off of the ledge or fell into the water, with a snarky remark from Ben himself, something like, "I didn't see that." Some of the other activities that they've included go a long way to mixing up the gameplay variety, things like entering a tree chopping competition or mixing different potions, and even manually applying beard oil to beardless lumberjacks. It certainly carries the Ben 10 sense of humour. They're all nice touches and something the game does really well. You won't go more than half an hour without some new element being introduced, which seem to allow the developers to flex their legs a little. There's a currency in the game, these coins, which can be collected and found all over the shop. As well as this, you can buy treasure maps to allow you to locate, well, treasure. And while rudimentary, the shop system allows for the purchase of several character buffs and these treasure map items. You'll face a number of boss fights, which again aren't too difficult. They're just about right for the age group this is targeting, but I still found them interesting enough. And there are small inclusions, like the energy crystals, which when you approach, you'll have a small arena-style fight, but once you defeat these and destroy the crystal, you're given a perk or an upgrade point. Now, upgrade points are very simplistic. There's simply 3 tiers, and in any points you accumulate can be placed into one of them, permanently increasing that area. Overall then, I've played far, far worse licensed titles than this. If you have children of a certain age, then they're gonna love the game. As an adult, I do see the flaws. There's a lot of simplicity. They've potentially not used the world as much as they could have, but I appreciate that they made its traversal very fun. I'd give gameplay 15 out of 20, and the controls could have done with a few more quality of life things like a lock-on mechanic. Some of the world collision isn't the best, but overall controls are decent. They score 15 out of 20. In terms of visuals and audio then, well, performance-wise, things are not looking rosy in some areas. Firstly, they've gone with an uncapped frame rate, so there are times when it climbs all the way up to 60 FPS, like when you enter the Void, which is where you'll gain your new alien forms, or if you're fighting a boss. However, in the open world main areas, it can rapidly shift from 30 to 40 down to 10 or 20 in some of the city or more built up areas. As an adult, I wouldn't be playing it like this, but once again, my kids didn't seem to notice and just got on with playing the game. Not only though is the frame rate completely inconsistent, it goes for the visuals as well. The game seems to be running at something like half resolution. I'd be surprised if it's 540p. Character models are pixelated and some of the jaggy lines that you can see in the distance are almost shocking, with individual pixels being obvious. When it's in handheld, it's much more disguised, and actually I preferred playing in this mode, but when this is stretched over anything above 30 inches, any adults are going to notice all of these issues. The design of the world isn't half bad. It's a little bit bland and lifeless in some places, but then there are others which are much more interesting. There is a good contrast between the three main sections, and all of the characters are very well adapted from the source material. Having split screen is a big win, and the performance is, yeah, just as bad really as the main game. It doesn't seem to tank much further. I'm thinking a patch or two would fix this up nicely. As far as the audio goes, everyone is voice acted, with some genuinely funny moments from some of the voice acted cast.
Did he seem magical?
Well, I guess his growing hands and ability to float in midair could be considered magical qualities.
Audio and sound effects for the most part are decent when you're just traversing the world, but I noticed a real issue. Combat sounds are almost non-existent. When you're throwing a heavy punch, you want that over-the-top Hollywood sound effect, but it was just too quiet for my liking and didn't have much impact. The music of the game is where there's a bit of contention. The music isn't bad, it just has quite an annoying repetitive loop when you're in the main area. It changes when you go to different sections or enter the Void, but you'll hear that same incessant loop over and over again. There's also the strange addition of being able to find hidden vinyl music albums throughout the game, which can be played from a menu, but you can't use those in-game. It seems like a strange omission and perhaps a missed opportunity. Overall for me, visuals and performance score 10 out of 20, and the audio overall has a couple of issues. It's good from a voice acting standpoint, and it certainly carries the Ben 10 atmosphere. There are just a couple of gripes with the sound effects and the music loops. It scores 13 out of 20. In terms of value, the game's priced at £34.99, but I've already been able to find it for a little bit cheaper than that physically. Would I recommend parents go out and buy this for their kids for Christmas? Well, actually, kind of yes. It does a lot of things well, such as the open world areas, the split screen co-op, which will allow you to essentially double its impact when you give it out at Christmas. And yeah, as an adult, I have a load of gripes with the performance and things like that, but my two have absolutely had a blast with it. And it's complex enough for the 7-year-old and ridiculous enough for the 5-year-old. It's going to take them a good amount of time to work their way through this, and there's tons of collectibles to find. And in all honesty, it's just nice to hear the kids laughing and playing a game, other than that one with the crafting and the mining. Yeah. Obviously, it's fully Switch Lite compatible, and if you're going the download route, you're looking at 1.7 gigs. Personally, I think 25 quid would have been absolutely spot on, but with licensed games, you do kind of take par for the course. I give value overall 15 out of 20.
Smooth sailing.
Getting in my daily reps.
Check out this
Despite not receiving the highest Switch Up score, I'm actually pleasantly surprised by Ben 10 Power Trip. It's a much better game than I was expecting. It doesn't break out completely from the classic licensed game formula, but it did enough to keep my kids and I entertained. They really need to do a serious patch job on the Switch visuals, and if you have any other systems, then absolutely buy it on those. It scores a Switch Up score of 68%. A big thanks to Outright Games for the review copy. Let me know down in the description if you like the look of this or you'll be picking it up for your kids for Christmas, or if you secretly are a bit of a Ben 10 fan and want to buy it for yourself. Thanks as always to our patrons. Do subscribe if you like the content, and as always, for all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys, see ya!